What is up, Jabronis? JJ back here with the crew. Anthony Wayne, some people call him Big T. Travis, who some people call Mangone, and Bruce, the Bruiser. What's going on, boys? It's been a while since we've done a little CFB action together. It's good to have the gang back. Mangone, you look like somebody who enjoyed the holiday break. You look refreshed. The skin looks fantastic. Maybe you've been using the same lotion Holden's been using. But how you been feeling the last few days?
Yeah, holiday's been good. Happy to be back in Colorado. But Dunkel, I got a few choice words for you actually, since we've been off the break and all. I know we have a little bit of a lower viewing right now. We only got 100 in here, but I figured I'd kick it off at the top of the hour. I'm just watching the Print Factory a couple weeks back, right? And you just happen to just start talking about how Mangone can't host. He only plays one lineup. And I just want to set the facts straight a little bit for you, Dunkel, because at the start of the year, what did I start doing? I started MMEing, if you remember. And I said to you throughout the process of this show, we were like a couple weeks in, and I said, Dunkel, I can happily host. I can tell you got a.
Here's the great part. Here's the great part about doing it in StreamYard. We can just kick him the fuck out if he starts spewing random nonsense. I mean, Mangone, you first of all, I want to interject because I was referencing on the show where you said you were building one lineup, where I was building 15. You're like, I'm only rolling one lineup today.
I can get there if you'd like. You rudely cut me off before I could continue on with my rant. So, but anyways, I'm going through. You're talking about that one show, right? If you want to talk about that one show, I said to you previously, I'm very happy to host the shows. But you know what I said? You've been rolling this year as a host, right? You're out here, the number 6 college football player in the world. You're out here just crushing. I don't want to mess up the mojo. I mean, Tony, who messes up mojo? I'm not just going to sit here while he's shipped 5 straight weeks in a row and be like, yeah, I'm going to start hosting. You're absolutely rolling. What am I going to do? Mess it up? I mean, it's on you if you'd like me to, but I'm not going to watch you then not ship that week and then blame me because you weren't the host of the show.
That's a rough side of the argument there. Tony,
I want Dunkel's shirts. What I want. We should all have those matching shirts for the like title game show we do.
Yeah. First of all, this shirt goes great with the new Run Pure hat swag.
That's what I was thinking right here. You can't tell me that thing doesn't match with it. Give me that shirt. I'm in.
Yeah, we get a Run Pure version of it for sure. Goes great with the hat. Mangone, I appreciate your constructive criticism. I do disagree with it in a major way, but I do respect it. And
to be fair, Dunkel, you did close the show out with you were just kidding. You did say that. You're like, oh, I'm just messing with you, Mangone. It's okay. But I just wanted to make sure I got on you a little bit.
Bruce, definitely the most diplomatic of this group. How you've been the last few days? Look, first of all, for those who aren't members of Run Pure, Bruce just absolutely grinds in the Discord, constantly being able to push information, injury news, whatnot. It's been a bit of a crapshoot in some regards with regards to injuries and late scratches and whatnot. But Bruce, you've done a tremendous job for the members, and I'm sure all the members can attest to it. But as far as, we'll call it how you've been doing over the last week or so in the sport, or even the last few weeks, how have you enjoyed the bowl games, DFS streets?
Yeah, the rough part is the injuries, but I mean, what are you going to do? You just play the best plays, and it's just part of the thing. So just a bad run here lately, but I still cashed a couple of those days with my main lineup, so it was pretty profitable still. So what are you going to do? It's just part of it. Just hope you don't run into that today. So nothing you can put in your process to avoid that. So, but yeah, other than that, great Christmas, family, family and football. So,
Bruce, if this helps, I played it like a member yesterday. I forgot that I joined a contest, and then I woke up and everything was sold out. And I hit the gym, and I pulled up the playbook on my phone. I pulled up the cores. I put in Bruce's cores, and I turned $15 into 150. So there you go. If everything didn't sell out, I would have actually sat there and played it. But I woke up and I was like, everything's sold out. This is stupid. I'm going to the gym. And I built a team like that. So I actually had a little sweat last night, thanks to you.
Who lives better than Mangone, who wakes up at 11:30 Eastern every day?
Nice.
Bruce, on your end, I will say real quick, I know you're not feeling well, but that sweater's screaming. It's pretty clear you've been doing some work in the Iron Paradise. Things stretching itself out, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Big T, go to you last, but of course not least. How's it been for you the last few days? I know that I recently obviously started playing these bowl game tournaments, and it's been kind of tilting for me. I didn't play a bunch of these over the last few weeks because of this type of news, and it's only gotten worse for me. But how have you been handling it?
Yeah, I mean, more of what you guys have been saying. Some days you kind of dodge the landmines and you have a good run out. Other days your guys holding the helmet, your guys playing 2 snaps and missing the rest of the game. I know the one day I had 2 running backs that were like 75% and like 85% owned, and they both scored like 4 combined points because of injuries and different things. I think I still cashed that day. So it shows you just how crazy these slates have been. But Bruce, like always, just freaking crushes all the news up. I mean, if you're in the Discord, you see everything. And he's freaking done it for the entire time I've known him, which has got to be 5-6 years now. Every slate, every game, projections. He's just an absolute machine in there for the members and for us, like Mangone said. I use his info more than anything. So he's the man with all this stuff.
Yeah, and the showdown stuff's awesome too. I mean, it just feels like Bruce is just in the lab all day. And
I don't know how he does it, honestly. Him and Jaime with the damn soccer, it'll be like 3 a.m. and all of a sudden some core from like Yugoslavia comes across. Bruce is the same way. I won't even realize there's a game at noon on a Tuesday one day, and all of a sudden I got freaking news coming in and I want to play. It's crazy how they do it.
No, it's super impressive. Much respect all around, and I'm sure all the members really appreciate it. So, look, without further ado, let's dive right in. We got a 4-game slate. Obviously, a game that's likely going to go very under-owned as well. So we could probably, I don't want to say breeze past it, but briefly talk on it. I will say this.
I might say it's going to go over-owned.
It might, but
I'll tell you this. Saying earlier.
I'll tell you this. If this slate is anything like yesterday, and it's a little similar in certain ways, people aren't, there's going to be a handful of pieces of this game, but much like the NC State game yesterday, just feels like a game where you'll have minor pieces, maybe some cheap running backs. But either way, we'll talk on it. Overall, though, I'll say this going into this slate, if you're entering the bigger tournaments, right, you have to build lineups where you're going to be different, right? Because just look at how the slate plays out. Like, look at yesterday, right? Like, the last game on that slate was way over-owned. Like, even if it nuked, there was almost no way you were winning the tournament because everybody had everybody in that game. It was like, what was that? I mean, Bruce, you would know more than me, but there had to be at least 5 or 6 guys in the same game that were 40% owned in tournaments. I mean, about that, right? I mean, I feel like McCoy was like the lowest owned out of all of them, and he was like 32%. Everybody, both quarterbacks were over 30% owned. So just something to keep in mind that these slates, if you look at the lineups that have been winning over the last few days in these smaller slates, it's always the lineups that have these random dudes that are 3 and 4% owned. Like, take some shots today. We'll talk on some spots where you can take some shots, but take some shots. There's going to be the obvious plays that everybody's going to play. Take some shots. I know you're going to lose some lineups because of it, but the ones you get right, you're just going to rocket ship to the front. So anyway, we'll talk on some of those low leverage plays or low owned leverage plays. But anyway, we'll start with Kentucky, Iowa. What do I have here for implied numbers? Hope please. They're not going to be good. I'll tell you this. Iowa team total 17.25. Kentucky 14.25. That might be a little lower now. No, I think that's actually accurate. That should be what the numbers are. Both quarterbacks completely unplayable. I don't think anybody will play them anyway, but to me, completely unplayable. Running backs is a little interesting if you can properly project ownership, because there is some quote unquote value at running back on both sides. Wide receivers, I just couldn't even envision going to anybody. I guess a Sam Laporta, in theory, you could play or run them in your builds and your optimizers. Outside of that, though, the running backs for both sides, I guess. But, Bruce, I'll start with you, ownership-wise, on those running backs in particular. Are you seeing more than 20% on
maybe just McLean. Yeah, maybe just McLean, and that's it.
McLean. So
the Kentucky runner.
Okay.
So there's like 2 McLeans, but one's from Kentucky, obviously. There's there's McClellan and McLean. So some people might confuse that. But
hey, man, go on. I'll scoot over to you for a second, because obviously Bruce is having little issues with the.
Yeah. Sorry about that. McLean will be the only one over 20, most likely. And yeah, I don't see that just because he's the only guy left with Rodriguez leaving.
So now I'm looking at optimizers, and it looks like Caleb Johnson really pops on this entire slate. You don't think he's going to see, because if you're building with an opto, I'm just looking here based on projections. He's popping. So it feels like he's going to be a higher owned running back than maybe 20%. But you think he's going to be less?
Yeah, he's the only one I really like, to be honest. But yeah, I've been seeing 10 to 15% on him.
Yeah, so for me, it's really the running backs, how you want to intermingle them. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be about 15 to 20% on the Iowa kid. The Kentucky kid, I'll have a little bit of exposure as well. But outside of that, nothing else for me. And the reason for me to play him is because I'd argue these running backs probably should be a little higher, because there's just going to be a lot of running. Like, these teams aren't going to throw the football today. So just going to be a lot of carries to go around. And look, if they land in the box, you're golden. But anyway, Mangone, how you approach the running back situation for both teams?
Yeah, I think running back, it's one of those spots where you're going to see some obvious plays that people are going to want to be on. This is one of those slates where Tony's going to be like, "There's no way this guy's not in Mangone's one lineup or whatever." Like there's guys that are just obvious. Like, it's
still haven't been wrong yet this year.
You have been wrong. No, you have been wrong. You were yes. This is fake news right here. But
the only time you were wrong, Tony, was the quarterback that was in a 3-way.
That's just because he got all excited too, and he wanted to prove me wrong.
No,
and it wasn't because he actually wanted to. He was
did
sending me
want to
messages from members like, "Oh, you have to play it." He was so happy about that guy.
He crushed it. He was awesome. So he told me not. One of the guys told me not to let that big hillbilly over there bully me. So.
here's the crazy part. I give it to Mangone, obviously, for having the balls to play him, and then ended up playing him. But like, the dude still wasn't in the optimizer, and I'd argue in the optimal, and I'd argue that was his ceiling. Like, he had like 27, and like,
don't rain on his parade, Dunkel.
Yeah, this is hurtful. Okay,
scored every one of the touchdowns for that team.
Listen, I'm not the number 6 college football player in the world, right? I can't win every single slate. So
my job on this show is to just keep the conflicts going. I'm not here to nix conflicts. But anyway, man, go and carry on with the running backs for this game.
Yeah, it's tough because like I had built around with some teams, and like I kind of landed on that Kentucky running back last spot, and I was like, I put it in and I was like, I'll just go to bed and I'll figure this out in the morning. And one thing I kind of like when I heard you talk about it, Dunkel, is like, you got to take some shots on stuff. One thing that like made the lineup that I played like pretty good yesterday is I just had Bruce's playbook up, and he had one guy that was listed in there that I didn't even think I was going to play. And dude ended up being 0.9% owned and dropped like 19 DraftKings points. So like, somebody's just got to take shots on these guys. Also, another thing about this slate that I noticed that's really interesting, obviously, it's kind of like a 3-game slate. It's not really a 4-game slate, if we're being honest. And you also have all of these. If you look at Bruce's playbook, he shows it pretty well. All his wide receiver values are tight ends. Now, I know that Bruce is all about the tight ends, but Justin Fleming is 5.5. Like, when is Justin Fleming 5.5K? I just feel like a lot of these like receivers are kind of priced up a bit, where like if you dive into this cheap 3K range for some of these options, it gets rough. So if you do nail that spot, you are going to have a pretty contrarian play there. So that's definitely another thing to note. I don't know if it's a slate too to like maybe go like super flex, like with like a running back instead. I normally just go 2 quarterbacks. I think it's going to be a better slate for that, but that's something I kind of want to hear your guys' thoughts as we keep going through the slate. Maybe it changes it, but I really don't want to play anyone from this game. I know Bruce is always a big fan of Sam Laporta, but I don't really know anyone else I want to play on Iowa. We haven't played anyone on Iowa. It's a 31.5 total. It just seems like a spot where, unless it's like that running back, I'm probably going to stay away from this game and find other ways to make my lineup different.
And Tony, on your end, your favorite player, Will Levis, is not playing in this game. I know you would have locked him in on this slate. But who do you obviously the running back situation, you can play, not play, whatever. But I am interested in your take here, because these are guys that I'd argue potentially, based on projections alone, should probably be higher owned than they're going to be. And it is a slate where you kind of are looking for salary savings in certain areas. What are you doing with these running backs in this first game?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be over-owned. I'm going to keep saying it, but I just disagree with you guys. I think people are going to play them. They need value. And I think it's the different one, though. I think the edge is for sure, if you guys want to play one, play the Iowa guy. the Kentucky guy is going to be higher owned than the Iowa guy, just based on the numbers. So I think if you want to play one, play the Iowa guy. I'm not playing either one. It's a 30 total. I'm just not doing it. Even if they get like 14, I'm just going to try to beat it with a cheap guy that maybe sucks in one of those good teams. I mean, as we go through, some of those tight ends are 3,700, 4K. I don't know. I'm just going to try to beat it in better spots. I just can't. If I was playing anyone, it would be the running backs. So there's no way I'm playing a receiver. None of these guys are all that cheap either, and you just don't know. We've seen it all bowl season. These teams will run more running backs than just these guys. I guarantee it. It happens every freaking game. So I don't know. I think these guys come in like 20% owned, and I think that's way too high in a 30 total. So I'm going to be off this game almost for sure.
Fair enough. And you can look at it like Mangone said, look at it as a 3-game slate, just X out the entire game and just kind of move on.
Even if they do good and get like 15, which obviously if you told me they were getting 15, I'd play them for sure at this price. But even if that does happen, I just like my chances still to find something to beat that.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. I mean, I'm going to have some exposure just because
I think the Iowa guy, just based on, one thing I like to do on all these slates is look at Bruce's projections, look at some around the industry and see where they don't match up. And so that's kind of where the edge is on this, at least. The Iowa guy's way higher for us than he is on these other sites. So I like doing that with Bruce's projections because they're good. And I know people won't play it as heavy as us just because of that. So if I was playing either one, it would and with the way that it slates up, let's be honest, two of the best plays are running back. You only got one. I'm playing two quarterbacks always. So I got one other spot. Maybe you do play one of these guys, and the Iowa guy could be in play. And I mean, I'm playing a bunch of teams, so I probably should play a little bit of this Iowa guy just because Bruce's projection is good on him.
He's cheap too, Tony. And like I said before, the receivers, there are not cheap receivers that you actually like. Listen, Justin Fleming is 5'5". Like, I mean,
I'm never playing him though. I'm playing these tight ends that Bruce like.
But that's the point I'm getting at,
guy, the TC. There's guys that Washington. I mean, there's guys in the same price range that I like more. Yeah. I'm telling you what's going to happen. These guys are going to get like 5 fantasy points, and the 20% you're going to be like, why the hell did I play a guy in this game?
No, I know. The point I'm just getting at is there's not a lot of amazing value plays. Like when all
I agree with you.
When all the value plays are tight ends, no offense, Bruce, right? When they're all just tight ends, like there's no like
that's why these guys are going to be higher owned than you guys think, though. I think they're going to get ownership. I don't think they're going to be like I wouldn't be totally stunned if they come in like 30% in some stuff. I wouldn't be. There's no cheap guys. There's no one to play.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. There just isn't anyone cheap. It's
you're gonna feel like a moron when you play these guys and they come in and you look and it says 30%. You're gonna be like, what in the world am I doing?
Fair enough on all counts. All right, let's move on to a much more productive game. So Kansas State and Bama, totals 56.
AJ, hold on one second. So AJ says we keep talking about the Iowa guy. Caleb Johnson. You got to pull the names up, the projections. Caleb Johnson from Iowa. Juton McLean is the Kentucky guy. 4,400, 4,100.
Y'all didn't talk about the quarterback for Iowa. He's like a dual threat quarterback, which is kind of different than what they've had before. So
Bruce.
Yeah, get back, Dunkel. I shouldn't have interrupted you. Get back to moving us along.
Just hear me out here. Hear me out here.
All right, Bruce. You've earned the chance to be heard out.
I was choking Bruce up for 10 minutes to start the show.
Just hear me out.
No, Bruce can always get me excited about running quarterback, so I'll listen.
I'm not saying to play him. I'm just saying that the run.
This is sounding an awful lot like Kevin. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying to play him. He always says.
So the run game is going to be a little bit different for Iowa. I think. I think they can do a little bit more zone read here, and Caleb Johnson and LaShawn Williams can have a good day in that offense compared to what they've run in the past. It's just going to look a little bit different, and I think Caleb Johnson has a big day, 4,400.
I think it's a good point on the running backs to like them a little bit more if you have that running quarterback, but you're definitely not going to sell me on the quarterback. I don't think Iowa's changing their program during a bowl.
If I was playing either quarterback, it would definitely be the Kentucky one, just because he's like supposed to be at least somewhat talented, and he's 4,800.
He's 1 star less of a recruit than Will Levis, and you know how Will Levis has done this year. All right, so just so the people are clear, because there are a few quarterbacks in play for Iowa. Which one in particular, Bruce?
Joe Lavis.
Oh, Lamoth. All right.
Lamoth, yeah.
So yeah, you want to take some shots, obviously.
I mean, both of those guys run, so I mean, it's not the worst play in the world, but yeah, definitely.
I will say, I just pulled up the Kentucky guys' game logs. I'm impressed that this dude ran for 11 times for negative 24 yards. That's impressive.
Yes.
So Kansas State, Bama, total of 56. Again, another game where you just have a bunch of guys overpriced. It looks like Will Howard's going to start, even though Martinez might be healthy. Bruce, do you have any insight there?
Yeah, I would think Martinez probably gets a couple snaps, but yeah, it should be Howard.
Okay. I'll be honest. I think at the price, it makes Howard tough to play. But look, let's be honest. When guys are tough to play, that means obviously people aren't clicking their names. And Howard has upside. We know he does. Alabama's defense has been a little overrated all year. I don't mind him when he's in this price range at 6'6". He just typically finds a way to get there for you. And look, let's be honest. Are we all lining up to play 8,500 Bryce Young against a good defense in K-State? I mean, I'm not really in love with that idea. So anyway, on the running backs end, Gibbs, it just feels like whenever he's been in these spots to be good, man, he just but his price is really good, right? We know he has the upside. He arguably has the most upside of any running back on the slate. I mean, I guess Edwards from Michigan's in the conversation, but Gibbs, between the pass catching, the whole bit, when he's healthy, if he plays most of the game, he's in as good of a spot as anybody. Game script independent. So yeah, definitely going to be Gibbs exposure. And then of course our RPS bro, Ja'Cory Brooks. All year, I feel like we've played him. He's kind of been a mid for us most of the year, but on a slate where you're kind of looking for value, Ja'Cory Brooks is a good play on this slate. On the other side, Kansas State, look, Deuce Vaughn, another guy that's game script independent, might be a game where he gets a lot of dump offs. His rushing prop is still really good, all things considered. It's over like 115 yards. He obviously is likely to get in the box. So, call it the 2 running backs from this game are in good spots. K-State receivers, look, you can play them. These guys are all overpriced, all of them. Knowles, Brooks, Warner. The only one who's not is maybe Sanat, but you basically need him to land in the box for sure if he's going to get there for you. So either way, nice pieces to this game. Big T, I'll start with you for this one. What are you doing with this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's hurtful here having to go against the number 6 player in the world on all these things, but I think these K-State guys are great plays. The dogs. Do they agree or disagree with me? Is the question.
They didn't like the take, Tony. They did not.
They didn't. I can't go against number 6 in the world and the dogs. I'm in big trouble going against both. But I don't know. I think K-State has way more to play for here than Bama. I like to weigh how much teams want it. I know that's a lot of speculation, but in the bowl games, I always like to weigh who I think's more excited to be there. Definitely in my head, I think K-State is way more excited to play Bama than vice versa. And these prices look cheap to me. Malik Knowles, he's the one that got hurt and then cost me the championship, right? He got hurt he was crushing in that game, and then he got hurt, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's the guy that freaking damn turtle beat me because this guy got hurt in that final. But 5,900 feels too cheap to me. He's going to be used in a lot of ways. Cade Warner looked decent at 4,300. The tight end at 37. I like both of those guys more than the running backs in that first game. I like Will Howard's look decent. Deuce is like a lock today if you're playing one team. His projection's massive. I like K-State. I think they score points against Bama. Bama side gets a little trickier just because of the price points. Bryce Young is so freaking expensive. I do think we see points in this game, though, and there's only 4 games on the slate. The 2 later games are obviously playoff games that have a ton of significance. I think I got 5 main teams today. I'll definitely stack this game up in one of them just in case those 2 later games play tight, which I do think they can. There's a lot of running in those teams, too, where they run. So, I don't know. I have a lot more interest in this one, I think. Gibbs is the tough one for me. If you look just at the whole slate at running back, Edwards is a near lock. I don't know how everyone's not playing Edwards at 6,600. And then you got Deuce Vaughn. So unless you're playing all three of them, which I think you could, it's tough to get to Gibbs. I mean, you plug in those three, you're going to have to play one of the earlier quarterbacks or something to get them. So I think Gibbs could be a little bit lower owned, like maybe 25% or something when it's all said and done, just because it's hard to play him. It really is. So Gibbs could be the leverage play. Like Dunkel was talking to start the show, some of these guys, it could be different guys that break the slate today, where if a lower owned Gibbs outscores Vaughn and Edwards, I know they're not the exact same price, that gets you up there a little bit and offers different things. The rest of this game, though, I mean, I'm trying to talk myself. This is where Bruce comes in, too. Some of these receivers, because we need value, and I'm just looking at these Bama guys, like this Bond guy, James Bond, Prentice, all these different dudes down here. I don't know any of them, obviously. The only guy I know is Ja'Cory Brooks and Latu because he won all that money in the final last year. But some of these cheap guys have to be in play on this slate, like these 3,500 guys. They have to be. So this is where Bruce he breads our butter here for us.
Yeah, man, it's tough to play any of these guys, but I think Bond is probably the play.
It's just fun that we can post the gifts, right? James Bond, when he houses one, we can all go crazy with the Bond gifts.
Yeah, I've seen people talking up Prentice as well. 4,600. When I've watched their games, he hasn't looked great to me. But 4,600, I guess it's not terrible, and he should start, I believe. So yeah, I don't mind
Prentice,
that
you're
either.
saying should start?
Yeah, I believe so. Let me just double check that.
So a lot of these bowl games that don't have any significance, we've seen random guys just play a ton and do good. Like who would be your favorite of these guys just to fall into a role like that?
I think Bond. I do like Bond a little bit more than Prentice, but yeah, let me dig a little bit more on that situation.
Who do they start at receiver?
Last game it was Brooks, Burton, and I think it was Earl, and he's gone. So
we're gonna have two new starters in this game.
Yeah, and yeah.
Just so I'm clear, Bruce, and everybody else is clear, who exactly wide receiver wise is out for Bama that's in the player pool? That looks like they're in the player pool anyway.
Yeah, so it does look like Prentice. Prentice does start, so it would be Prentice that starts there. And
Latu for everyone's the tight end, correct?
Yeah, yes, Latu is the tight end. So yeah,
4,900 is egregious for him too. It's tough.
That's rough. Yeah.
The tight ends you want to play 3,500, not 4,900.
Yeah, and I really have tried to avoid putting tight ends in the value spot, but man, it's so rough down there. There's nothing to play. They finally did a good job with pricing on receivers today.
Yeah, I think. Well, Bruce, anything else? I know you answered a question from Tony there, but anything else in this game that you like or don't like?
So I don't really love Gibbs today as much as most. I think McClellan is actually coming on, and yeah, I know their last game was kind of a blowout against Auburn, but he got 50% of the snaps with Gibbs getting 55%. So you can play him for less, and I think he's a better overall running back lately. Gibbs is the big play guy there, but McClellan's not bad.
Mangone, on your end, what are you doing? What are you doing with this game?
Yeah, Deuce Vaughn definitely gonna be someone I like a lot. I think good points were brought up by.
You notice how he said that, Dunkel? He kind of let him do it.
Deuce Vaughn is at 7K. Deuce Vaughn is always a Mangone.
Hey, it's a great play.
And then he's gonna circle back now. I'm not for sure playing him, Dunkel. I gotta wait.
I am for sure playing him. I feel pretty confident. I know at least two of my running backs. The third one is the TBD one, but yeah, I don't have a ton to say in this game for sure, though. But I think the Will Howard price, that is a price that is going to be tough to play. Dunkel, I agree on that. I thought that was a good point that you brought up. Do you guys worry at all that Martinez, if Howard just is laying an egg, do you think just Martinez could get in there? I think that's the one thing to worry about. But if he's playing bad anyways, you're probably just not getting there no matter what. But that's something I thought about.
I think it's very realistic that Howard starts the game and maybe it moves slow or whatever, and Martinez just gives him a different look.
Yeah.
So it could be one of those where Martinez comes in for a drive, they look good, and they just leave Martinez in there. That's why but because of that, Howard's ownership is going to be lower, like lower than it would be normally, right? So use it to your advantage if you want. But anyway, you can carry on.
Yeah, no, that's basically the point I was saying with him. It is tough with some of these receivers. Like Latu's price is ridiculous. Gibbs seems hard to get to. I just don't see myself getting to a lot of these guys. I mean, Bruce maybe has talked me onto the Kobe play possibly. I want to hear definitely his takes by the end of like what we're going to do with the Bama receiver situation, because I kind of landed on a spot that's kind of interesting there. So I kind of would consider him, especially if he's going to be a starter. This game should have, some points scored. Kansas State is a good team. Bama has not been impressive though. And I think Bama's going to be trailing a lot of this game. I really don't think they're going to be up and just playing well. I think Kansas State's really going to give them, a tough game. And I would probably bet on Kansas getting +7 too, if you want to make a wager on this game. So yeah, I think that overall though, this is going to be a spot where you're going to see Bama trailing and trying to catch up. You'll see a competitive game at the end. And hopefully Deuce Vaughn can, get me to the finish line there.
Love it. Love it. So we've all kind of talked on this game, right? Any last notes we want for this one before we move on to the 4 o'clock?
I do think there's value. I know I already said it, but if you're playing a bunch of teams, stack this game up in one of them. I'm telling you, I don't think it'll be my main team, but I mean, Will Howard's won 4 straight games. And like you guys said, there's not going to be anyone play him. His projection sucks. I'm not as worried about Martinez. And like you guys said, if it gets really ugly out there, they'll bring him in, I bet. But you're dead anyways if that happens, just like you guys said. So I think there's more pass to him doing really good at 6,600 than really bad. And it's tournaments. We're all playing tournaments. We're not talking about a double up today. We're trying to win. This guy could freaking get 30 today, and I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like this game shoots out. I do.
Yeah, I can't argue that really in any facet because it definitely can get there. Obviously, we
Look what you can get though, Dunkel. Like if you play Will Howard and you play Cade Warner or something, and you could even play Sanat. Like that little 3-man stack saves you so much salary to be able to play like other things, and you don't need crazy production. Like give me 25 somehow from Howard and like 15 from both of those receivers, which is tough to get from both of them. I get that, but if you somehow get that, you are going to have a chance to ship this slate guaranteed.
It might give you the money to get Egbuka and Harrison Jr. on a team, which you can't really get both of them with ease.
It's cheap for that 3-man stack, and Knowles got hurt in that last game. What happens if he gets hurt again or just doesn't play as much in this? All of a sudden, you got the top 2 options or 2 of the top options at a combined $8K for 2 of the receivers.
Well, what was his injury? Because like sometimes these guys
like a hamstring or something. He was running down the sideline. No one even knew what happened, and then he was just out the rest of the game, just tilting.
And I know it's been a while since that game, but like hamstrings act up, and like sometimes these guys try to push the play because they've been grinding like their whole career to get to these kind of games and playing them, and then all of a sudden they just can't play in them. Like their body shuts down.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the next game. So TCU, Michigan, still, I mean, obviously pieces, of course, but still likely not the most popular game. I figured the last one will be where people have the most options for on overall anyway. But TCU, Michigan, looking like implied totals, Michigan 32.5, TCU 25. Look, TCU's had an inspirational season all year, right? It's kind of felt like a fate type year. Almost very similar to like Minnesota Vikings in the NFL, where like they just find ways to win football games that they shouldn't. But in relation to TCU here, look, it's an interesting spot, right? I mean, Edwards, basically, as Tony mentions, practically a lock at 6,600. Part of you wants to say play him and just move on. But man, we've seen this all week long with these 75, 80% owned running backs that don't get there. It's happened all week. And I know that obviously
the difference is this game is the first one to for sure mean something.
Oh, for sure. I guess what I'm getting at is like, man, it's just annoying, whether it's injuries, whether it's a guy sitting. And to your point, we're not going to be worried about guys sitting here. But yeah, it's been a brutal week for the chalky running backs. So Edwards, to me, you need Edwards. You need some flavors of them, no doubt. But in relation to other pieces in this game, the problem with Edwards is, as silly as this sounds, Edwards is going to be the highest owned running back in the slate. and McCarthy's likely to be the highest owned quarterback on the slate. Like, who's going to be higher owned than McCarthy at quarterback, Big T, or even Bruce? Who's going to be higher owned than McCarthy?
Nobody. He's definitely going to be the highest owned.
So if you're hand building, do realize that like there's going to be more than in most cases where you have a quarterback and a running back in the same lineup, then practically whatever happened. So I think overall, try to leverage that to your advantage in any way you can. I mean, granted, yeah, Michigan could very well blow them out. That chalk can get there. Edwards, and God forbid Edwards catches a touchdown pass from McCarthy. But Tony, I'll start with you again here. What are you doing with the chalky McCarthy, chalky Edwards situation? I know you said Edwards was a lock. What are you doing then with McCarthy?
Yeah, I don't need McCarthy. I do think, I mean, it's still a short slate though. I do think you can play them together. I don't need McCarthy though. So if I have to choose, it's definitely going to be the Edwards side. And honestly, McCarthy could be the fate of the slate because we know what Michigan wants to do. They want to run the damn ball. If they start pounding you on the ground, they're not going to throw it. They're not. I know they threw it in a few of those games towards the end of the year where they had to, but I don't see it. I definitely don't need it. And there's not that many receivers. You just know they want to run the ball is the key. So are we really going to play a 50% owned plus quarterback that we know the team wants to run? I don't know. That's definitely not something I have to do, but you can. I mean, again, there's tough spots today. The quarterback position is either really expensive at spots or just not a ton of upside. So you could, I think the cash game play for sure is play both of them together just because of the price points. But I definitely don't need McCarthy. You can still get exposure to the passing game a little bit just through Bell, through our boy Schoonmaker, who I don't know how we don't play him. I mean, he's been good. He was good in the last game. He's 40. Another guy that I would play definitely over those early running backs, Schoonmaker, like 4,200. I would definitely play him. He looked really, really good in the last two games, really. I think hold on, let me pull up his numbers from the title game. He versus Purdue, 3 for 56 and a touchdown. He only had one catch in the Ohio State game, but Michigan State, he had 12, Indiana 21, Maryland 20. I mean, he's had four or five pretty good games this year. Honestly, he has to be one of the best plays of the slate to me, and his ownership doesn't reflect it. So I'm going to definitely be on him. The receivers, Ronnie Bell and Cornelius, I would play only on McCarthy teams. So if I play McCarthy, definitely probably one of those guys because you're going to need upside from that spot. But my preferred route for Michigan, honestly, is to play Edwards and Schoonmaker and fade that passing side of it. Hope the touchdowns go to Schoonmaker and I just get all of the scores. I'm not sold on McCarthy. And then the TCU side, I think is super easy. Dugan, Quentin Johnston, no way I'm playing Kendry. I just haven't really liked him that much. The running backs are just better plays in other spots. I would even play those cheap guys in the first game over Kendry, I think. Michigan's going to stuff the run. I just don't see playing him. Quentin Johnson, I think, is a great play today. 6,500. I don't think he'll be very high owned, and he's just a skilled guy. Had some time off, too, to rest up a little bit. I know he was banged up. I could see him nuking this slate. One of those cheap guys I do like is Jared Wiley. He looked good to me in the K-State game. I don't know. He's another guy in that bucket where he has a zero floor. He doesn't have a high projection, but I could see him scoring a touchdown and getting like 15 fantasy points for 3,900. So I don't know. I could take a stab on him too.
Yeah, fair enough. Mangone, what about you for this game? What are anybody you're taking a good stand on, good or bad?
Yeah, I mean, definitely going to take a great stand on Edwards, Dunkel. I'm going to play him. He's a great player.
Edwards is definitely a Mangone.
So yeah, I like him, obviously. The big debate that I'm going through is, when you start building out your team, right? And I talk about this a lot when I do my single entry 3-max stuff. You just can't play every single chalk play. I think one thing I've prided myself in the past for sure, and even now, is like finding the optimal lineup. I'm pretty good at that. I don't need even an optimizer. I can just make it myself if I really wanted to. But where's the slight pivots? And I think Ronnie Bell is going to be someone that a lot of people are on, going to be a really good play. But Why can't it be Cornelius Johnson? I mean, Dunkel, TCU, you talked about how they shouldn't have even been in this title game. Well, what was the reason behind it? You got the sheet, the yards per whatever. Cornelius Johnson is a guy who could absolutely torch this defense on a big play. And he can also leverage Ronnie Bell a ton, and it paired up with McCarthy. So I think Cornelius Johnson is a really good leverage play. If I decide to go the McCarthy route at quarterback, I'm likely going to go with Cornelius Johnson over Ronnie Bell. I just think it's a good leverage play. Yes, it's going to be risky, and you could, fall flat on your face, but I think it's a risk I'm willing to take in tournaments. I do want to talk about the opposite side. Max Duggan, the guy was absolutely dudding against Kansas State. If you remember that game, he was awful. And then what happened in the last drive? The dude just ran like crazy. Could we see him just running like a madman in this game? Like, this is a really good defense. Could he get there late in the game like he did against Kansas State? I certainly think he could. And this dude's a baller. Like, he's a good quarterback, will run as well. Like, I just think he's worth considering, even though it's against a tough defense, just because of the rushing equity that he has. So I'd consider taking a chance on it. And Quentin Johnson's cheap. You could easily pair them up together and just call it a day. You could even play him naked. I don't think that's the craziest idea to just play him by himself, not have to pick one of those guys. I agree with Big T. Miller's someone that I'm not playing at all. And I'm definitely thinking about Duggan a little bit more, though, just because I think what he can do and being in a trailing script, it just seems like a spot where he could be maybe the winning quarterback on the slate.
Fair enough. And then Bruce, on your end, what are you doing with this one?
Man, this is a tough game for me. I really wanted TCU to hang with Michigan, but I just don't see it. TCU runs that 3-3-5 defense, which is a lot of quick, fast guys, and Michigan's just going to pound them on the ground, I think. So I love Edwards. I do like y'all's idea of possibly just playing Edwards and not McCarthy, getting a little bit different. I thought about that last night because he's going to be.
To be honest, I didn't think about it until this show. I think it's a great idea, Bruce. Like, the fact that you guys both thought about it makes me want to jump on it even more, because I was thinking of ways to get different with McCarthy, but just making big fades sometimes is huge. And a big fade like McCarthy, and there's enough options that you can, like, you got Bennett coming up, we got Young, we have Stroud. There's enough big name quarterbacks that can beat out a guy like McCarthy.
Yeah, and the main reason why most people are playing him is just because of the salary. It's so hard to build a lineup that you like without him in there. And there's not really another option other than maybe like Will Howard, like Big T said. So yeah, it's Edwards for me in this one, and maybe a TCU receiver or two. I do like Schoonmaker, and that's pretty much it. Maybe a TCU receiver like Barber or Johnston. Johnston does have a tough matchup. Michigan's cornerback that shut down Marvin Harrison in the Big Ten in the last Big Ten game of the year is pretty solid. So he does have a tough matchup there, and I do like your idea of also playing Johnson over Bell. Bell's ownership is going to be crazy today, maybe 35-40%. So Johnson's got a good leverage play there.
That's pretty insane, that the fact that he's going to see that much ownership for a guy that just doesn't really have a big ceiling. But all right, last but not least, Georgia, Ohio State. Big game.
One more comment before you go, just because I was just looking. One more cheap guy that, if I could actually talk, my voice is freaking losing. But another cheap guy that we didn't talk about that I think you can definitely play because he looks super talented to me. And again, this is 4 games. You need something to get you different. This Loveland dude, 3,800, he looks good to me for Michigan. So I think he's super talented, and literally no one's going to play him. So I know Dunkel started the show, find some like 1 to 3% owned guys just to get you different. I think Loveland, this Michigan spot, I think offers a ton of leverage to get off of just playing the quarterback, running back type of thing. So I like Loveland too at 3,800.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so last but not least, Georgia, Ohio State. Implied totals 34.5 Georgia, 28 Ohio State. Real shitty matchup for Georgia. arguably they got the team with the most upside in all of D1 with Ohio State. I mean, NFL draft picks all over this roster. They pissed down their leg in a few games this year. Michigan obviously stomped them in cold weather. This will not be cold weather. I mean, this passing attack shouldn't have any weather concerns. And Stroud's, look, let's be honest, between Stroud and what's his name, the quarterback from Bama, Young, they're both kind of fighting for that first overall pick, right? This game could be a bit of a difference maker for either of them. So with all that said, look, a guy like Stroud's going to go practically unowned today at 8,200. I just couldn't even imagine 15%, 10%, Bruce, somewhere in there. Bruce, you muted.
Like 20 to 25.
Wow. The fact that he's that high is actually kind of crazy to me because Anyway, I think Marvin Harrison's the lock of the slate. I think you just play him, and we talked on Edwards being a lock. I'm not saying I disagree with Edwards being a lock. I just think that there's other running backs that can get there for you, in theory. I don't know any wide receiver that has anywhere near the upside Harrison does on this slate. To me, there's not even a close second. I mean, the other guy that's up there potentially would be Igbuka, and they just, in tight games, they just over-target the shit out of Harrison. So, to me, I know Harrison's going to be high-owned. What are you seeing, Bruce? 60%, 65, maybe higher?
Yeah, when I looked around the industry, I saw that Igbuka is actually going to be higher owned, I guess, because of the price. Harrison looked to be around 20, 25, and Igbuka about 35 to 40. So maybe some edge there.
That's it. I'd love to trust projections there. Tony, a slate like this, I'm interested in your thoughts. How is Harrison only 25% owned on a slate like this?
Salary. You just can't fit people where, so when I ran blanket numbers just so I could see what everyone would be owned if I just ran it. And Igbuka just comes way higher owned than Harrison. Harrison only goes
a long way. I mean, it just does.
In a generic build, I didn't change anything because I wanted to keep these up just to see where the field would be. And Harrison's only 15% in that blanket. None of my thoughts in it. 15% for Harrison. Maybe you go a little higher and it's 20 to 25 just because it's Harrison. But, man, I mean, it's 8,100 receiver. And I couldn't agree more with you, though. These are the slates I always win because, even at running back, we talked about it. I put these two guys on the sheet, and I know I'm circling around a little, but it shows how we can play Harrison in these running backs. There's two 3K running backs that I think are somewhat interesting, and I'm sure no one will play them, but CJ Stokes from Michigan is the backup to Edwards. Say Michigan gets up a bunch, I think you could play him with Edwards and just lock down the whole running game. And you know what? Even if he gets 3 fantasy points, it gets you a different path to get up to these studs where sometimes just punting a position really opens up stuff and it gets you a different roster construction that other people just don't have. So all of a sudden we play Marvin Harrison, we play Edwards, we play Deuce Vaughn, we play a quarterback, and all we got to do that is punt a running back that no one's going to play, that is going to be on the field here and there. And if it's a blowout, could play also. So I don't know. And this, who's the other guy I saw? There was one more 3K running back. Oh, this Kentucky guy. So everyone assumes it's going to be the one, but Lavelle Wright is 3K. He got a bunch of work earlier in the year before everything was in place. There's nothing that says Lavelle Wright at 3K can't score a touchdown and get us double digits. We've seen it all bowl season. So I'm more willing to play just total punts. I've done this forever in college. Total punts. You know what? If it goes right, we're going to make a lot of money. If it goes wrong, we can still play Harrison at 15% owned. And when he gets you 35, like Dunkel thinks, and I think, you just crush. It doesn't matter what your 3K running back did. Everyone's playing these mid-range guys with no upside. Marvin Harrison has upside.
Yeah, to me, slate like this, I couldn't even envision not clicking Harrison's name. I'm not saying Igbuka isn't a good play too. You could play them both. To me, Harrison's outperformed him all year. And we're gonna let, what is it, $600, $800? What's the price difference? $600. We're going to let $600 be the difference maker in why we're going to play Igbokwe over Harrison. Harrison's like an absolute freak. And in games like this that are tight, especially when they're trailing, he just eats so many targets. So, yeah, ultimately consider Harrison a practical lock for me. I'll probably have him in every one of my lineups. Yeah, if he doesn't get there, he doesn't get there. But to me, best upside on the slate. I'll figure out a way to get him in the lineups. I'll have some Igbokwe as well. I get it. If you play both of them, it kind of, in theory, makes sense to play Stroud. But I'm going to have 0% Stroud. I'm just going to eat up that. That offense is so concentrated that it's just, you want to play them too. Fleming, the only time that dude ever does anything is when it's a broken play or he doesn't get the volume. You could play Stover, but I mean, Jesus, we weren't playing Stover when he was 3,800. We're going to play him now that he's 5K. No, thank you. Like I said, to me, Harrison Igbokwe on the Ohio State side, I can't play any of the running backs. This is just going to be a nightmare for this O-line in terms of trying to run between the tackles. And I also think Mayan Williams sucks, so definitely not playing him. I think you can maybe squeeze in some Hayden, even though I think you guys know by now I have gotten this Ohio State backfield wrong all season long. So I don't even want anything to do with it for this slate. If it beats me, it beats me. I'm just not going to play any of it. And I'm just going to target the passing game from Ohio State. I think the trail script could make sense. Whether they're trailing or not, the best way to beat Georgia is going to be through the air. I mean, Georgia, excuse me. Yeah, Georgia, through the air. So I love the spot for Harrison. Igbokwe, I'm probably going to be a little lower owned in the field because I didn't realize he's going to be that high owned. So call it 20% for me, Igbokwe, 95 to 100% Harrison. Any strong stance, Tony? I'll start with you. Any strong stance for you in this game?
Yeah, Harrison with you. I'm definitely on that path. Strong stands. So, I mean, I do like this game. I'm kind of against Igbokwe too. So, I'm arm in arm with you there. I just feel like he's going to be super high on. I'm not saying there's any issue. Again, it's a short slate. If I play Stroud, I don't mind playing both of them together just to be totally different. But I'm taking Harrison over Igbokwe. I'm just finding a way for that. So, I'm with you there. I don't see much else from the Ohio State side. Stover's too expensive. Fleming's too expensive. I really think Ohio State might be the easiest team on the whole slate just to play the studs, the quarterback and really just Stroud and Harrison for the most part. I don't like Igbokwe as much, but you could. I'm not saying to full fade him because he clearly has upside too. So that's where I'm at on Ohio State. And then Georgia, I think Georgia always gives you opportunity for cheap plays because so many guys do stuff that first of all, I think Bennett's my favorite quarterback of the slate. I just feel like he can run. He's a big game player, as we've seen the last couple of years. He's slightly cheaper than some of the other guys. I like him. But honestly, on the Georgia side, you can play literally like 10 guys, I think. All these cheap guys, I think, should be in your player pool. Every one of them. Washington, Mitchell, Jackson, any of these guys in the cheap range, I think you can play because they spread it around so much that I wouldn't be surprised at all if some of these guys get there. So a lot easier from the Ohio State side. The only guy I'm going to play Bennett for sure too. So Bennett and Harrison would be the two guys for me. And everyone in chat's making fun of this 3K dude that he's not on the team anymore or something, Bruce, this Stokes.
I think they suited up a defensive guy at running back this week.
Mullins or something, they were saying?
Yeah. I was reading the practice report.
Well, so I gave my speech about the 3K guy. I do want to know that they're active, though. So if he's not on the field, I'm not literally taking a zero. I want to know they at least have a pulse to come in the game. So I won't play him if he's like not even in there. He's colored a different shade on the depth chart, too, so I don't even know what that means. What do the different colors mean, Bruce, on the depth chart?
I'm not sure. I didn't catch that yesterday.
I don't know. The way everyone was talking about it, I'll just play the Kentucky guy for the 3K guy then if I want a three. That guy should be the second string, right?
Yeah. Or you can spend up just a little bit and get LaShawn Williams from Iowa.
Who's that one?
The 3,800
Iowa
running back.
It's a lot of salary difference. I'd rather just play your the guy I think that's a good play the more I looked at it I think we're higher than the field with your projections on the Iowa guy.
Yeah, he's such a better running back than McLean. McLean is so every time
He's
I
got
watch
big
him,
games too throughout the year where
yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like that guy more the more I look at it.
So one thing I want to say, because I didn't really touch on the Georgia side myself. The good thing with Georgia in some facet is that their offense is not concentrated, and why that's somewhat good is that it's going to push ownership down for certain players in this game. Brock Bowers is somebody I have not played all season long, so I know that you guys love to ridicule. Brock Bowers is likely going to be a very good NFL player, or should be a good NFL tight end, but they just don't use him. I don't know what it is. They don't use him in the passing game. They prefer to have him block. And even when he goes out, like I look at it like the one slate that he got there in the last 2 months was a tipped ball that went 80 yards for a touchdown. Like the defender could have picked it off, tipped it. Bowers catches it and runs 60 yards afterwards. Outside of that one play, Bowers has done nothing for over 2 months in college football. And now you're basically paying him at 6'3". I mean, Bruce, what's his ownership today? 15, 20, 25? Because he's priced in a range where you can play him.
He should be in the 30s. Yeah.
You hate Brock Bowers.
I mean, Tony, convince me why I shouldn't hate.
These are the spots where you play big time players is all I'm going to say. Like the same case for Harrison is I want big time players when all the chips are on the line. Like I want Dunkel when it comes to playoff big prize pulls, number 6 player in the world. I want Dunkel on my side. When we're playoff time, I want big Brock Bowers on my side.
So my thing there is, first of all, McConkey, I assume is playing. I know he's got that little question mark on him, but I assume he's playing.
Yeah, they said he's good, but yeah, just something to monitor.
I mean, yeah, that's going to suck, right? He says he's playing. You look at him; he's on the sidelines with the helmet on all game. But to me, like at least they over target this dude. Like he sees targets every week, like a lot of them. Look, I'm going to have some Bowers because I have to. For the slate, because the small slate, I'm not going to let myself lose because Bowers nukes. But the guy has literally been on one optimal once in the last 10 weeks. Once in the last 10 weeks. And this is a guy that sees 30% ownership on every slate. It's not like he's a guy who sees like 5% ownership. It's like, oh, that's okay. 30% ownership every slate. So to me, yeah, I'm going to be underweight on the field as I always am on Bowers. He could get there. I could still luck box with a few lineups I have with him. But it's going to be another slate where, his receiving props are getting steamed under. Like everything is just doesn't seem like a Brock Bowers slate. With that said, he could land on the box a few times. He's talented, but yeah. So either way, I'll let everybody be on 30% Brock Bowers again, like they are every week for whatever reason. Mangone, did I go to you for this game?
No, you have not gone to me for this game. I'm not a big Brock Bowers fanboy, but he did win me a lot of money in the final last year. Like that was the guy that got me over the top.
He was in their game plan every week last year. I don't know what happened. The receivers got worse this year, and they don't target him. I don't understand what happened. I would agree with you. Last year he was a freak. They targeted him the shit out of him. Was great.
But I'm with Tony. The chips are on the table. You know what I mean? It's time. Like they're going to use Bowers in this game. The problem is, if they're leading most of the game, will they definitely do it? Like the time that they really started going to Bowers, at least I remember in the championship game, was when they were down. And like, I don't expect them to be losing a lot of this game, but it's going to be a competitive one. They're going to throw to Bowers. I don't think they're going to be trailing the entire time, but Bennett, I agree with what Big T said. Bennett's going to be a really good quarterback play. Definitely going to be one that I'm looking at. I'm kind of debating between these top end quarterbacks, and I'm trying to play like two of the guys above like Bennett. So basically Bennett, Duggan, Stroud, or Young. I get why you're talking about not loving playing Stroud, Dunkel, but like, I mean, if I'm playing Marvin Harrison Jr., I think you can play him by himself. You don't need to play Stroud. But if you're going to play a spot where it's going to be a massive funnel, just play Stroud. I feel like, I don't know, if you have the money, I'd rather go to him.
But that's just it. That's just it, man. Going have the money, right? You play Stroud. You play Stroud. You more or less need to play him with both receivers, right? Unless you think Harrison's going to go for 200 yards and a touchdown himself, which he could. But to me, you got to play both receivers, right? So
I don't think you have to play both receivers. Like, I mean, I think you can get away with it.
Stroud doesn't run, right, Mangone? So you're on a slate like this where he's the highest priced quarterback, one of the highest priced quarterbacks on the slate. He doesn't run. So you basically, if you're playing him today, you need him to throw for like 350, 400. Who's he throwing to?
I mean, they throw to other guys, though. I mean, when you plug in Harrison and Egbuka together, you have some like awful teams. So it's like both could have like one guy could go for 30 and the other could go for like 22, and you don't need both. Like, I really don't think that's the case.
That's fair. I would say this personally. I prefer to play both receivers without him at quarterback.
I mean, I would love to too, but I don't have any money. So, but
If you're playing both receivers, you better be playing him.
No, yes, if you do that, but the point we're getting at is
I'm consistently. I'm going to be clear. I'm taking a complete stand there. If I'm playing both receivers, he's not in those lineups because first of all, I want to be different somewhere. Like Buka's high owned as it is. If you're doing optimized,
no one ever full stacks though. Like you get in there, no one. This is why, like a couple times a year, we ship just by full stack, and then the roster construction is so freaking different. But I mean, look at the games. I mean, the Michigan game could play super ugly. The first game could play ugly. Who knows in Bama that could play ugly? I mean, there's a path where all three of these games totally bust, and you're sitting on a full late stack where you're just going to win.
Oh, I agree.
If Harrison gets 30 and Ibuka gets 25, like how does Stroud not get you 30 plus?
He could not get you 30 plus because you may more or less need him to throw for 400 yards today, and he could easily do it. 400 yards, the dude's 8,200 with no mobility. So, I mean, that's why you said Tony Bennett's a much better play. At least he's mobile.
Yeah.
To me, at price of cheaper quarterbacks, to me, as silly as it sounds, I'd rather play both of them with a naked Howard than I would play both of them with Stroud just for the price. Because remember, you think about how you're losing playing all three together. Like, what the hell's the rest of your lineup going to look like today with them three?
It's going to be different though, and when they get you 30, just say they get close to 100 combined, you're going to win.
Well, I'd argue if Stroud gets you 30. He still might not be in the optimal today. Not at that price, because Bennett could get you 30. Bennett could get you 30. I would
definitely take that bet. It's a 4-game slate that there's not a high upside in spots. It's not a 14-game slate like we've been playing.
I guess what I'm saying is I think it's more different. If we're just trying to talk on being different, it's more different to play both receivers without Stroud.
Well, I agree with that. I agree for sure that it's more different.
That's definitely a fair point for sure. And if you want to play like those cheap value quarterbacks, right? Like that, if you want to do like your McCarthy and your like Edwards together, don't play one of the receivers on Michigan, right? And then just like play like both those receivers.
I'm just saying, okay, so this is the build. Like I'm just saying, this is a totally freaking different build. No one's gonna have it, but Stroud, Harrison, Ibuka, Bennett, Bowers. You play both of the cheap running backs in this first game, which Caleb Johnson, McLean. You got 3,900. You could play whoever you want in that flex spot. There's tons of 3,900. That roster is totally different. And when both of those running backs get, I know I'm totally shifting what I said, but I'm just showing how you can build a different team that could ship. And like that team, when you get 10 from both of those running backs in the first game, you have a totally different roster construction. And you have all the upside of the late stack. So you can literally just root on defense early, no one going off. And when no one goes off, like you're just going to ship the slate.
Yeah, it's.
Are y'all doing anything with the Georgia running backs at all?
I mean, I'm throwing them in the bucket, but
I have some McIntosh. Edwards, I'm finding it hard to like in any regard. He's just priced too high for the volume.
Yeah,
he's not good.
Milton, I mean, another guy that's just really, he doesn't really get snaps. Like I know he had the decent game against LSU, but he did off 8 carries. Like I think it's got to be McIntosh or nobody personally, but yeah, just because the volume alone, like you basically would need these other guys to score twice, right? Or just break a big run, which could happen. But yeah, so for me personally, it's McIntosh or nobody else.
On the receiving end, I really like Washington. I think he's definitely a good value that you can go to. And I think other people are going to go to these other tight end values instead. So I think he can get nice and overlooked. Bruce, did you see the DM I sent you of the Bama depth chart? I have it. So it was it went out an hour ago. So
yeah, I saw that. I pulled it up just a little while ago.
Oh, okay, good. I want to make sure, and I didn't know if that changed any opinions on the Bama receiver situation.
Yeah, it looks like Prentice is starting, as we suspected. I do have an opinion on this Ohio State defense. They do bring a lot of zero blitzes, and whenever they did that in the champion, or not the championship game, but the Michigan game, Michigan busted some big runs. So, I don't want to discount the Georgia running back situation. I do like McIntosh a good amount, so I may run him in some tournament lineups as well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And like I said, as I go through these builds, I mean, like I said, I'm likely going to land a hand build in 12 lineups. I'm likely going to land on 3 lineups with Bowers. So I guess maybe I'll be at 25, whatever it is. I guess I'll be at the number if it's 25%. I just look, you're going to have a slate today where everybody's over-owned, right? I mean, even the guy you mentioned, right, Washington Mangone, like he's as priced as high as he's been all year. I mean, so I'm not saying he's going to go on. It's just you got price issues everywhere. So it's just a matter of can you get the lower price guys right today? Is really what it comes down to. And obviously, Bruce, you're bigger on the tight ends for lower price. Some people will be bigger on the running backs from this first game. And then it's just a matter of kind of squeezing value where you can find it. One thing I'll just end the show with, I guess, as a final say, Stroud specifically and Young specifically. What are you guys doing ownership-wise with them three? Like, Mangone, are you taking any stand there? Stroud, Gibbs. I'm not sorry, Gibbs. Young.
I would lean Stroud. Stroud's my pick if I had to pick one. I just think the trailing script they're going to be losing most of the time, right? A trailing script. If they're somehow establishing the run on Georgia late in the game, I'll be shocked. You know what I mean? So I just think there's a funnel there. It goes Stroud for me 1. I'd probably go Young 2, mainly because Young you can pair with cheap receivers and it helps make a nice little combination. One thing I was messing around with was maybe going Young and going Law and Kobe Prentice together. Now, I kind of do want to get Bruce's thoughts on the Law kid. That's not, I think he's super talented, but it seems like he's not one of the starters. Is he still going to get enough work? Because I think that could be a super contrarian stack where you go 2 cheap of those receivers and you grab Young, and it's just a really sick combination.
Yeah, it looks like Law got about 40% of the snaps in their last game. So, I mean, he could see some run there. Didn't really see much mini balls his way, but yeah, if you think he's talented, I wouldn't. All
right, cool. Yeah, I think that's how I'd rank it. And then I'd put Gibbs DFL. I'm not playing it.
And Tony, on your end, I guess one last piece, because I'm looking at projections. This kid from Iowa that we made fun of Bruce early on with, and we talk about price salary being an issue and quarterbacks potentially not nuking this slate because of their price. If some of these games play defensive, if this Iowa kid gets you 17 today, if he does,
massive.
I mean, I couldn't even tell. Was that sarcasm or?
No, I was being serious. Massive. If you get that from if you gave 17, I'd play him on every team. I would absolutely. I was being serious.
I'm talking about Lobis, the quarterback. Just to be clear.
Oh no, I'm not playing him. Yeah, no, definitely sarcasm for that one. If I was talking about him, no, I mean these quarterbacks are good. There's good quarterbacks. Don't play a quarterback in the first game unless you think all the games are low scoring. The more I think about it, the more I think the winner is that late game. I mean, Harrison's going to crush. I don't know, and I really like. So I shouldn't even say it for free on the show, but I think this dude at 3K from Kentucky is the best play. Lavelle Wright, he's Stoneman 3K. I think he's got a decent chance to get more work than people think at 3K, and it does so much for your build to play him that I don't know. I really like what it does because I can play Harrison, and I don't have to play Ibuka with Harrison on that build I was talking about. I could play Bennett, Stroud, Harrison, Brock Bowers. I don't know. I feel really, really good with that. I want upside at quarterback. This is the same thing I was telling kind of K Fallick that one day. I just don't want to punt at quarterback. Unless you think he can get in the 20s, which even if 17 at quarter, I just don't think I want that. I don't know. I can't do it. It's not how I build, but I'd rather just punt any position than quarterback. These guys are Stetson Bennett's going to crush. I mean, Bryce Young could crush. Stroud, McCarthy. These guys two of these guys are going to crush. No way they don't.
Fair enough. All right. So that basically wraps it up. Obviously, thanks everybody for the chat with all the questions and whatnot. Big thanks to Tony, Bruce, and Mangone for all the helpful insight. Wish you guys all the best of luck with this entire slate. And again, your hand building lineups, find a way to be different, especially if you're entering the big tournaments. There will be a lot of duplicated lineups, copied lineups. Find ways to be different. Don't just build optimized lineups. And then you're gonna see there's gonna be so many similar lineups today. because the ownership is very concentrated in certain areas. So find those little peak plays, even if it's a lineup where you just grab a guy that's 1% owned, instantly makes you different than all the others. So obviously leverage that to your advantage. With all that said, gamble responsibly, stay safe. As always, folks, run pure. Catch you guys next time.